Alô. Ok. Bonjour, boa tarde. Hello. Nós estamos de volta com o Canada Day CCBC Online Festival, uma iniciativa da Câmara de Comércio Brasil-Canadá, com o apoio do governo canadense e o patrocínio da Air Canada. Nessa tarde, vamos conhecer um pouco mais sobre o ecossistema de inovação da costa oeste do Canadá, mais precisamente da província de British Columbia. E para isso temos um convidado muito especial que vem da Launch Academy, uma instituição parceira aqui da CCBC, uma aceleradora e um elemento importante do ecossistema de inovação lá do Canadá, especialmente dessa região da costa oeste. Hello, Ray. Welcome to our festival. We're very pleased to have you here with us and to share a little bit about the innovation ecosystem in the West Coast, more precisely in British Columbia. We're very happy to be together with Launch Academy in this session, and the floor is yours. Enjoy, and we are very excited to hear about what you have to say and let us know a little more about the innovation ecosystem in Vancouver and in the whole province. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Paulo. Hi, everyone. First off, I want to wish my sincere thoughts and prayers and condolences to everybody that's in Florianopolis and other parts of Brazil that are being hit with the cyclone and severe weather. So we're watching the news here. We see it happening. And so hopefully everything does come together and people are going to be okay. I'm going to share my screen here. We globally are going through some very serious changes. It'd be one thing if it was just affecting certain regions, but the pandemic and economic crisis around the world has had a very negative impact all over the world. And so now more so than ever, everybody is really concerned about how to future-proof your business, how to make sure that you are able to take advantage of opportunities all around the world. Because local economies are being hit, you might not be able to surface enough business, or your company is doing well and you want to make sure you entrench yourself and for all sense of lack of better words, take advantage of some of the challenges that other people are having in other parts of the world and be more aggressive with your business. And so going global is more serious now, more so than ever. Just gonna advance my screen here. So this is a quote by Jack Dorsey, CEO of Twitter. And this was something he put out last year, and he re-emphasized it again earlier this year. And this is actually more poignant now after the pandemic. We need to figure out how to build a company that is distributed, that is not burdened by time zones, but is advantaged by them. And now we're also seeing great opportunities realized by people being able to work from home, work from remotely. So international companies don't all have to be under one roof, and you can build global businesses more efficiently and effectively today, as we can see with this Zoom conference that we're having. Technology is allowing us to do things that we didn't think we were capable of doing 5 years ago, let alone 2 years ago. So I'm going to give you a little quick background about myself and why I'm the one talking to you here about British Columbia and Vancouver, and then we'll get into the challenges of going global and the opportunities that Canada and Vancouver in particular, British Columbia, have to offer. So myself, I run a parent company called Launch Ventures. So under Launch Ventures, I own and operate a network of incubators, investment funds, and innovation studios. And we also do large scale events. I'll kind of work my way backwards. You see the Traction icon there. So we run Traction Conference, which is rated one of the top 10 tech conferences in North America. We bring in CEOs and VCs of unicorn companies and top tier venture funds to talk about probably the most important thing to any tech company, which is traction. How do you acquire customers? How do you retain your customers? And then more importantly, how do you monetize your customers? The spin out of Traction has been our CEO dinners, our private events that we do in Vancouver, Seattle, San Francisco, Toronto. We were going to expand to New York, Atlanta, Austin, and a few other markets in the US. But COVID has derailed that for now. But those private dinners are a way for us to connect CEOs in different markets and venture funds in different markets to new opportunities and just cross-pollinate and promote opportunities. Traction Conference itself has been derailed as well because of COVID, and we are doing everything virtually instead of doing a 1-day or a 5-day conference as we have here. We have opted to do weekly webinars with our speakers, and so we have a lineup of speakers from now all the way into January, I believe. And again, same caliber, top CEOs from Silicon Valley and top VCs talking about how to scale and grow their businesses. On the investment side, I've co-founded a couple different venture funds. The most recent is one called Victory Square. Victory Square just actually had a fairly successful endeavor in Brazil, partnering with a Brazilian company called SafeTest and helping to look at ways to expand that company into North America and expedite the COVID tests that they have in development and broaden the reach of those solutions into the mass public. Under Victory Square, we've also had a number of different successes in the blockchain space, cryptocurrency. We're working in film and television. We're also doing a lot of stuff in VR, AR as well. I've recently left Victory Square to focus on one of my startup studios called Sports Technology Group. Under Sports Tech, we are basically reinventing the way that sports and entertainment functions in the back office, primarily around the contracts and sponsorship contracts and player management. But what I'm most well known for is Launch Academy. Launch Academy is our nonprofit. It's an incubator, business incubator. We've incubated over 3,500 entrepreneurs in the last 8 years. We started in 2012. We have had about 300 of those companies go on to seed to Series A and are very well-established tech companies. And through Launch, we've also spun out our virtual reality, augmented reality hub. We're also doing a potential partnership with the Shenzhen Technology University to bring up a startup studio in Shenzhen at the university for our students. And more recently, Launch Academy itself is designated by the Canadian government to authorize support for startup visa applicants, but also foreign talent that's interested in working in Canada through the Global Talent Stream program. And so in the last 2 years, as we've been honing in on these programs, we'll dive into this a little bit more later on, but we've helped over 70 companies from 20 plus different countries all expand and grow their business into North America. And that's been a wildly successful program for us as well. So I built this presentation before COVID, and we have gone through quite a few changes since this presentation was put together. The context of this slide is that we live in a very different world. A lot of business practices and business courses and experiences that we've seen from very successful people have been built off of old mentality, old ways of doing things. A lot of this stuff was started with brick and mortar businesses, where person-to-person contact, in-person sales, global reach was limited. All these different nuances to business have drastically changed over the last few years because of technology. And so today's world is far more connected than ever in human history. There's more knowledge distributed around the world than ever. But more importantly, the pace of change in business has been so fast that a lot of people are having trouble keeping up. I would argue that nobody is an expert in today's world, because once you are a real expert in something, you've dedicated your time and energy, well, the needle's moved and the environment is different, and technology has changed on you. Perfect example is artificial intelligence and the big changes machine learning and AI has had in traditional industries to advancing them further. That is just going to continue to grow and grow and grow. And then the nuances of cybersecurity and how that needs to play into the way businesses operate moving forward. So the world is changing every single month, if not year. But as you go global, I've had this question posed to me. As I travel around the world, I speak about Canada and opportunities in the US and building international businesses. One of the first gut reactions is that, oh, I'm abandoning my home country. And that's the least thing that should be of concern, because everywhere I've gone, every company I've worked with, nobody has abandoned their home countries. People are proud of their home countries. People are proud of their roots. And if you have built a successful business in your home country, you're not abandoning that. You are expanding it, and you're bringing new opportunities back home because of the opportunities that you're able to source out and secure on an international level. And so mostly I get this a lot from government people or traditional business owners, not so much in the tech space, because they fear that everything is going to leave the country. And everything that we've seen is international business, global expansion does nothing but grow your home market and your growth in your foundational business and teams in your home markets. And a lot of this due to tech companies not being restricted by borders. Borders are a political thing. They definitely serve a purpose and they help in certain scenarios, but as we have seen technology flourish and grow, we see the restrictions that borders have on humanity and the ability to connect with other people around the world and not just do business, but grow as human beings and cultures. And so tech is really a totally new realm of context when you think about how to interact with other countries, other cultures, other societies. But one thing that has definitely reigned true, no matter where you are in the world, is that it is a global fight for talent. There is limited amount of talent out there that can help not just tech companies, but any business. I would argue that any industry now is a tech industry, because tech permeates those industries and helps those industries become more successful and more competitive and more advanced. But the tech talent that you need, or just a general talent that you need to execute on those business opportunities, is getting finer and finer. And part of it is to what I said before, how the landscape is changing day to day, and technology is coming in. Nobody can be an expert because it changes so fast. So when you are looking for pools of talent or expertise or even educational resources, the availability becomes smaller and smaller every year, because less and less people are up to speed with the latest thing. And you can only train people so fast. Universities can only pump out students so fast. but even at that, they are not effective in the workforce until they get hands-on experience. And you can see how it becomes a never-ending circle where you can never have enough experience because things are changing so fast. And so this fight for global talent will continue to grow. And so you as business owners, as entrepreneurs, really need to understand and grasp the fact that you have obligation to your business, to your teams, to your customers, to constantly fight for the best talent that you can get access to. And sometimes that talent is not in your home markets. And that's why, again, going global does benefit the company as a whole and your country as a whole, because you are reaching out to find that talent that can best execute on your business. And this is an area where Canada has really been stepping up. I'm pretty sure you've all heard a lot of the news in the US about the H-1B restrictions and the immigration restrictions, which is a stark contrast to what we're doing here in Canada, and being more open and welcoming to international talent, foreign skilled workers, but more importantly, international entrepreneurs that want to expand and grow their business in North America. The world is connected like never before. I've kind of iterated on this. It's the most documented knowledge in history of mankind right now. The most accessible knowledge has been to mankind, and the population around the world has been the most educated it's ever been, and that's just getting stronger and stronger each year, each minute, if you want to believe it. And the other key, again, more so that you're seeing in the news in North America, is the importance of diversity. And diversity isn't just white or black. It's not just male or female. There's a lot of different nuances to diversity, different cultural backgrounds, different economic statuses, different political viewpoints. All those different perspectives really come together and build a stronger foundation for your business, for your company, for your family, for your society. And so diversity is something that I think moving forward is going to be a very, very strong leverage point for all businesses. And again, as you look at going global, your chance of bringing in diversity and bringing in more viewpoints and success metrics into your business just grow. And Canada is a very, very strong example of how diversity does work in good ways. By no means is Canada perfect, but comparatively to other areas of the world, it definitely is faring better than others. And so again, you as business leaders have a responsibility to your business and your families and your country to set yourself up for success and meet new partners and look outside of your comfort zone, your little bubbles, and look at new opportunities. Travel and in-person meetings are definitely a challenge right now, but thankfully technology allows us to reach out in digital ways. And Zoom has been a very, very successful tool. We live in the tech world, well, at least I do, and we've known for a long time that Skype and Zoom are tools that allow us to do business, but we're now finally at this stage where traditional businesses, brick and mortar businesses, traditional industries have come to the realization that they too can leverage technology in new ways and expand and grow their business in new ways. And it's going to be a really interesting next couple of years as we see those companies transition as well. And one of the key things, especially in the tech industry, is the realizations that you don't have to be in the top tier cities like San Francisco when it comes to tech to connect with customers. Investors, channel partners, other strategic stakeholders are all functioning online. They're living in digital worlds just like you are now. And it's never been easier to build an international business by not being in a major international hub. And definitely there are some advantages to having a presence in San Francisco, New York, London, Japan, Tokyo, but those don't have to be permanent presences, and they don't have to be a full-scale team. It can be individuals, it can be contractors, it can be remote workers. That landscape is changing quite drastically. And when you look at Canada, Canada is a small market. Let's not beat around the bush. Like the population of Canada is the population of California, right? And so business opportunities may not be as abundant, but within Canada, but Canada is a gateway to growth. There are massive opportunities that can be leveraged through Canada, through Canadian government programs and initiatives, but more importantly, trade agreements and relationships, international status. Doing business as a Canadian company is very, very advantageous in international markets. More so, I'd say, right now than an American company, and definitely more so than a Chinese company. But when you look at those two markets, US and China being behemoths, Canada, as a Canadian company, you can be more swift and nimble and be able to execute on business opportunities far more efficiently. And as a country, Canada has really embraced innovation, is really driving forward on concepts that we now know have a global impact. And one of the big ones that we have here is our innovation superclusters. These are initiatives taken over by the Canadian government, or taken on by the Canadian government, where the concept is you can have a cluster of businesses, and they will have a domino effect and self-perpetuating effect around opportunities in that region, in that cluster. But a supercluster is where you start bringing in other layers of stakeholders and invested parties that would not traditionally be part of that cluster. In this case, a supercluster involves not just the government, but universities, incubators, business centers, major corporations, tier one corporations, but also startups, nonprofits. It really starts to bring in all the different stakeholders in a economy to focus on specific sectors. And we've got 5 across Canada. And so starting with the East Coast Atlantic provinces, you have marine sciences and aquatic sciences. In Newfoundland, I believe. In Montreal, it's the AI, artificial intelligence supercluster. In Toronto, it's the IoT and manufacturing supercluster. In Saskatchewan, it's the plant sciences and food-based sciences, agriculture tech cluster. And here in British Columbia, it's the digital supercluster. And the way I kind of present that is it's really about how do you acquire data, how you analyze that data, and then more importantly, how do you visualize that data, and how do you help something's called like digital twinning, taking traditional industries and helping them to digitize and advance using technology. Another area specific to the West Coast is what's known as the Cascadia Innovation Corridor. And so Cascadia is the name given to British Columbia, the state of Washington, and the state of Oregon. So Vancouver, Seattle, Portland being the major epicenters. The Cascadia initiative has brought together, again, governments, universities, but more importantly, the multinational companies and startups and other stakeholders together to really focus on making this region in North America one of the top tier regions to come to mind when you think about 3 key technology stacks, and that's being blockchain, quantum computing, and VR, AR. I sit on the Tech Council, and the major stakeholders that are involved are Microsoft, Amazon, Nike, Boeing, AT&T, Verizon, and there is a really strong push, as you can just imagine, with just looking at the 2 big companies, Microsoft and Amazon. Everybody knows that they're headquartered in Seattle, and there's huge presence in Seattle. A lot of people don't realize that they actually have a very, very large presence in Vancouver as well. Amazon's HQ2, headquarters 2, has always been Vancouver. And there was a lot of hype around HQ2 moving to being a new initiative that they wanted to put forward. And I think New York and Virginia were the ones that end up winning. Well, that's kind of gone away now, and it's defaulted back to Vancouver. And they're going to have about 10,000 employees in the next 2 years here in Vancouver, and that's tech employee, not fulfillment centers. And Microsoft has a major presence here. VR, AR, virtual reality, augmented reality. Vancouver actually has the #2 VR, AR industry in the world, and there's a lot of opportunities around quantum computing. And so it's in those companies' best interest to make this region the epicenter for blockchain, quantum, and VR, AR, and other people are jumping on board on that as well. But now focusing a little bit more back on the Vancouver industry itself, a lot of people don't realize that Vancouver is a foundation for a lot of innovation, and a lot of these major companies in various industries all started here and continue to have a massive presence here. And so a lot of these names, unless you're in the industry, you might not know the name, but even if you are in the industry, a lot of times you don't know that that company actually started in Vancouver and continues to have a major headquarters in Vancouver. And so on the SaaS, software as a service, Hootsuite was one of the very first pioneers in social media management. They're based here in Vancouver. Slack is a major force in the tech industry that's making remote work and business far more easier. They were started in Vancouver. Their development team continues to grow here in Vancouver. They have moved their business operations to San Francisco, but Stuart Butterfield, basically, who's the CEO, founder, he basically lives 2 weeks in Vancouver, 2 weeks in San Francisco, and keeps going back and forth. If you're in the quantum computing industry, D-Wave is a household name in that industry, and they're based here in Vancouver. Gaming, Vancouver's had a long history in the gaming industry. EA Sports is probably one of the most well-known. They are based here in Vancouver. They've been here for 20 plus years. Online dating space, Match.com, Plenty of Fish. Plenty of Fish was started in Vancouver. It got acquired by Match.com, and they continue to have a major operations here. If you're in the health tech industry, bioscience, Zymeworks, again, household name of that industry, started here in Vancouver and continues to be here. Video streaming, everybody knows YouTube. A lot of people don't know the name Broadband TV unless you're in that streaming industry. Broadband is based here in Vancouver, and they continue to be a major force in that industry. And I have Lululemon up here. Lululemon is a clothing brand, but a lot of people don't realize it's actually a tech company as well. The whole concept around athleisure wear, the materials that are used in that type of industry, a lot of that innovation came from Lululemon. It's founded here in Vancouver, and most recently Lululemon just made a lot of noise where they just paid $500 million for a augmented reality company called Mirror, which is allowing for in-home athleticism, exercising, and fitness. It's a great pairing and match for Lululemon, and just an example how companies that you don't necessarily think are tech companies are now moving into that world, and tech is becoming seamless in all types of industries. And it's not just homegrown companies. All the multinationals have a major presence in Vancouver. I already talked about Amazon, Microsoft, but Boeing has a major presence here, Nintendo, Finning, Facebook, Apple, Samsung, Fujitsu, MPC. There's a lot of major corporations, Google, that all have offices here in Vancouver. And what's actually really, really interesting is in the last year, we've seen over 100 Bay Area companies, San Francisco Bay Area companies, open up offices in Vancouver. And a lot of it has to do with, as I mentioned earlier, access to talent. Vancouver and British Columbia has a very strong base of talent. The price points are lower than you face in San Francisco. But more importantly, there are other advantages in Canada, such as our universities, but our immigration programs that allow these international companies to bring in talent from other parts of the world into their organizations a lot more efficiently and quickly. Again, the H-1B issues that are coming up in the US are very, very serious concerns for all these companies. And so they are positioning themselves for success by setting up operations in Vancouver and being able to bring in international talent into the organizations, position them in Vancouver. We're a 2-hour drive from Seattle. We're a 2-hour flight from San Francisco. We're the same time zone. A lot of the culture and nuances and demographics, geographics are very similar up and down the West Coast. And so culture-wise, fit-wise, it's a very good position for them to open their first international office, and in some cases, their second office overall. And Vancouver's history in tech and innovation isn't a new one. We've been around for a long time. Vancouver has always had this moniker of Hollywood North. And so film and television has been very prominent in Vancouver for the last 40 plus years, and has continued to grow. And Netflix has a major presence here. A lot of their films, TV series are all produced here. Almost every single superhero TV series that you see is filmed in Vancouver. Major motion pictures, Skyscraper, Deadpool, are companies or productions that are based here in Vancouver. I have Bollywood up there. My family has actually been a pioneer in the Bollywood industry. We started the whole international production of concerts, live stage events back in the 60s and 70s. And that was started here in Vancouver by my family. But it's not just the production and filming. Because of that history in film and television, Vancouver has actually positioned itself as the #1 visual effects and animation industry in the world. 60 plus VFX studios, animation studios, award-winning productions, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Sony Pictures Imageworks actually moved their entire operations out of San Francisco to Vancouver. Rick and Morty is a cult classic, and Reboot. The history, if you know Reboot, it's a animated series. It was one of the first fully digital animated series in the 80s or 90s, I believe, and that was done here in Vancouver. And so innovation is not just a production pipe, it's like the innovation around VFX and animation has a long history here in Vancouver as well. And that kind of pushed itself to, actually I'm going to skip ahead. So Vancouver's also had a very, very strong history in gaming. And so going from console games to mobile games to online multiplayer games, Vancouver has all the major studios, all the talent to make that happen. And when you take the film and television, the VFX and the gaming and the learnings and lessons and the expertise from all those industries, it's a no-brainer why Vancouver is the #2 VR AR industry in the world. A lot of the hardware is produced in Seattle, but a lot of the software and logic and applications for VR and AR is here in Vancouver. And #1 is San Francisco. It will always be San Francisco. But the gap between #2 and #3 is so large that Vancouver will probably continue to be the #2 for a long time. Just looking at a question here. So what is a region for plant-based food? So that was in Saskatchewan. And that's kind of like the middle of Canada, where a lot of farming and agriculture happens. So as we look past the VR AR, the other area that's kind of surging here in Vancouver is the esports industry. And esports, everybody just kind of, that's not in the industry, really looks at it as a gaming offshoot and an opportunity for collaborative global play and really look at it from the entertainment standpoint. But what a lot of people are not realizing is that esports is actually the guiding star for a lot of media and entertainment moving forward. The audiences that are enthralled in esports are younger demographics, and major film, television, news, you name it, any type of media company needs to look at esports as a guiding star of how their industry is going to evolve, because the way this demographic consumes content, connects with content, interacts with it, monetizes it, transitions in and out of different moods and swings and trends, all are going to have an impact on these industries. And so esports, as much as it's about games and entertainment, it actually has very serious ramifications in the way that society will mold and shape moving forward. So Vancouver is a key player in this industry as well. And it's not just those few sexy industries. Like all emerging tech has a strong base here in Vancouver. Artificial intelligence, machine learning. When you think about AI and machine learning, you tend to think about Montreal and Toronto when it comes to Canada, sometimes even Calgary, because that's where a lot of the universities and the theoretics is happening. What happens in Vancouver is actually the applied ML and AI. You see Boeing and Finning and Fujitsu as names that are up on this under emerging tech. Those are traditional businesses. The reason they're on here is because all their AI divisions are here in Vancouver. And they didn't just start with one or two people. What Boeing and Fujitsu and Finning did was identify machine learning and AI companies that were doing extremely well here, startups in Vancouver, and acquired them. And they became the foundation of their AI divisions. We're seeing similar opportunities here in cybersecurity. CMD is a cybersecurity company that actually works with Launch in our offices, so we share a facility. But two others that are on here, DataTrue and Bloombase, they are actually international companies that came to Canada through Launch Academy's startup visa program. And Bloombase is one of the top in the world when it comes to data at rest protection, and DataTrue is really making a name for itself when it comes to individual data identity and authenticity. Blockchain, Vancouver has been a very, very strong foundation for early blockchain innovation. I started in blockchain back in 2013. It's almost 7 years now that we're building blockchain companies. A lot of the history in blockchain came through Vancouver and continues to do so. One of the ones that's my own portfolio company, Fans Unite, we're building the world's first blockchain-based sports betting platform. But one of the other ones that's probably the most famous right now is CryptoKitties, and that's based here in Vancouver, and was actually the first time it was announced publicly. The idea of CryptoKitties was actually at Launch Academy at an event that we had in our facility. Health tech, clean tech are also very strong industries here in Vancouver. We got a company here called Smart Sweets. It's again a company that we helped through Launch Academy. They are reinventing candies and sugar-free candies, and they started by a young girl. She was 19, 20 when she started, and fast forward 3 years later, she's doing 50 million plus in revenue. She's in Whole Foods and all these different retailers all across North America, and I think she's about to go international as well. So amazing success story by just a single young woman that just wanted to make healthier candies. And so all these great opportunities in Vancouver are interesting until you get to, well, how do you do business at a global level? And if you have done business at a global level, you understand that there are some aspects of doing business that should not be there and should not be stressful. And the primary one is immigration. And again, when you look at the US and what's happening there, people that were building businesses, people that were contributing to existing businesses are faced with uncertainty and challenges that they didn't think were ever going to be an issue. And it provides an undue amount of stress that shouldn't be there. Like building a business and being an entrepreneur is already so difficult as is. Having that uncertainty is something that can really hamper or restrict the innovation and the ability that company has to expand and grow. But that's something that we as Launch are trying to help alleviate. And the Canadian government has been very, very proactive in addressing immigration concerns and addressing opportunities that Canadian businesses can take advantage of globally through strong immigration policies. And so Canada is really forward thinking with different tactics, strategies, ways to protect intellectual property, how to address taxes, the foundation of companies, but most importantly, the immigration, the movement of talent, highly skilled workers. As I said earlier, that the fight for talent is real and it's not going away. It's just going to get deeper and deeper. And the Canadian government has been very proactive and listened to the tech industry, the investors, and other stakeholders, and have been very receptive to all of our inputs and advice of how we want to position Canada so that we can take advantage of the challenges in other markets. So just a stark contrast between visas, the US and Canada. It's not just about the individuals, it's what happens around the individuals. The US spouses receive temporary visas and are often not allowed to work. Again, as you're building a business, or even if you're a highly skilled worker coming to a new country to contribute to the economy, having this dark reality that your spouse and your children can't work or can't go to school, it's devastating. It makes things even harder than it should be. Whereas in Canada, we embrace that. We understand that the family members are contributing parties to the country, and we want to make sure that they get opportunities to excel and grow themselves. Duration of visas, especially when it comes to startups, like the eligibility is tied to the company, and when the visa ends, the employment ends, and you have to leave the country, and they make it very difficult to get back in. Whereas in Canada, the status is not permanent. It's not tied to the success of the startup. There are multiple paths for renewal and different tiers of renewal and alternative paths and progressions. Like you can come in on a work visa, and then if you hit enough points, you can apply for permanent residency and move through the path a lot more efficiently than you can in the US. So we're gonna give you a quick intro on launch. We got about 10, 15 minutes left here, so I'm gonna buzz through this and then give you a little intro on our startup visa program and what we've been doing the last few years. So as I said earlier, in the last 7 years, we're going 8 years now, 3,500 plus entrepreneurs from over 100 plus different countries around the world have taken our programs. 10% of them have gone to seed to Series A, raising 300 or more, and created well over 2,500 jobs here in Canada alone, not including their international offices and operations. We are the founders of Traction Conference. We have all our videos and content online that are accessible from tractionconf.io. We have a YouTube channel with all of our historical videos. And the reputation that we have with Traction is very, very strong in Silicon Valley. And it's primarily because we're a no bullshit type conference. Our speakers are some of the top CEOs, CTOs in the world. They only get 15, 20 minutes on stage. They're not up there for an hour talking about themselves and talking about all the great things they've done. They only have 15, 20 minutes to put something in front of the audience that the audience will feel is valuable and tactful enough for them to take to their own business the very next day and implement it. And this reputation has grown. We're one of the rare conferences where you can walk into the conference room at any given time and the conference room is jam-packed and full. Nobody's in the hallways networking while the conference is running because nobody wants to miss what's on stage. And we've been 7 conferences now, and that's been the case every year. And then our Cxo Summits, these are private invite-only events, but we do embrace new entrepreneurs as we move into new markets, and all of our companies at launch find these extremely valuable because it does help you break the ice and get into new markets and then start leveling up your network quite quickly and efficiently. But our Maple program, our international programs, is what has really been resonating for the last couple of years, and this is the Go Global concept, where we are now actually 10 cohorts, and we're at 70 companies participated, and I think we're at 35 companies have landed in Canada. Half of those have received their permanent residency. And this is a program where what we're doing here is helping international companies expand into North America. And with all the challenges that are happening in the US, we feel it's a lot more efficient to set up your operations here in Canada, get your business structured, but more importantly, have your team here under work permits. If you qualify, you can apply for your permanent residency, and you receive your permanent residency within 12 months. That's probably one of the fastest permanent residency programs in the world. And the reason why the startup visa program in Canada is probably one of the best in the world is because your permanent residency is not tied to your startup. As an applicant, you can have up to 5 founders, plus your spouses, plus your children, can all get work permits, and the turnaround time is usually 4 to 6 weeks. And once you're here, you apply for your permanent residency, you receive your permanent residency within 12 months. After you receive your permanent residency, we know the stark realities of startups is some startups fail. So if your startup does fail, well, your permanent residency is not canceled. You continue to add value to the economy in Canada. But there's also other scenarios where, say, there are 5 founders and it's an AI, artificial intelligence company. One of those founders or 2 of those founders decides to leave and take a job somewhere else. that is totally fine. That is not going to affect the immigration PR for anybody in that original application. There are opportunities where the company gets acquired, or there are new opportunities in new markets, and you want to move on from Canada. Well, that's fine too. Like the startup visa program and the immigration programs that Canada has put together are very, very flexible and accommodating with the changing economic landscape and societies around the world. And so we're really proud as Launch Academy to be part of this program. The program actually started at Launch Academy in 2012. We witnessed the creation of the startup visa program and have been shepherds of it since. And more recently have been driving this new international program for companies. And it has proven to be successful and extremely well. And we will drive it forward as much as we can in new markets. And so kind of wrapping up here, why Canada? Why do people prefer setting up operations here? Is because Canada has a good pulse of global markets. I talked a lot about the US and what's happening here, and how we can really push forward into the US market. But the reality is that Canada is a global player. Canada is a gateway to Asia. We've got strong ties in various markets in the Asia Pacific network. We're a strong market in the European markets, and that type of business relationship and status doesn't come easy. And I can definitely speak that doing business internationally as a Canadian is an advantage. There are other passports that you might hold that make it very difficult to travel, but also very difficult for international businesses to do business with you. I'll give you a good example is in Canada, US, and Mexico, we've got the North American Free Trade Agreement. And it's designed to make business and opportunities in the three countries a lot more efficient, cross-border activities a lot more efficient. But I can tell you that we have Mexican companies coming to Launch Academy to join our startup visa program to set up operations in Canada, because it is actually easier for them to do business in the US as a Canadian company than it is as a Mexican company. So even if part of the operations are still in Mexico, the US companies are, for political reasons, but also other reasons, less stressed to do business with a Canadian company than they are to do business with a Mexican company. Now, that's with a free trade agreement. Now imagine somebody that's sitting in Romania, or somebody that's sitting in Brazil or whatnot, coming to the US and trying to do business in the US is not easy. And the harder and harder it gets, just becomes a less of a deterrent, or more of a deterrent to explore those areas. But coming into Canada, setting up business and operations in Canada, you are able to do business into the US as a Canadian company. And that becomes far more efficient and easy. Same token as doing business in Singapore or in Vietnam or any other parts of the world. Doing it as a Canadian company opens more doors and does become more efficient than the other places that you might be exploring. And the strong government support is really a key factor here. And it's not just the supercluster, there's other government programs. There's the Scientific Research and Experimental Development Program, where any company in Canada that is doing research and development within Canada with Canadian labor will receive up to 65% of that funding back into their business. And that is a massive advantage for Canadian tech companies when it comes to innovation and growth. There is a similar program in the US, but that caps out at 15%. Again, Canada is 65%. So when you think about every $100,000 that you spend in research and development, having $65,000 come back to your company so you can reinvest it is a major corporate advantage. And so a lot of Canadian companies leverage that program, and a lot of international companies have realized that those type of programs exist in Canada, and they structure their businesses accordingly so that they can be positive contributors to the Canadian economy and be able to take advantage of those type of programs. There's also lots of government programs and university programs, educational programs that give you access to professors and research students and whatnot. And the one thing that you can't deny is the good quality of life here in Canada, not just the healthcare, but the, again, the political landscape, the geographic, demographic. By no means are we perfect, but there are some very, very stark contrasts between what happens in Canada, what happens in other parts of the world. The other factor is global climate change, pollution, air quality, water quality. Those are all issues that are going to have compounding effects every year moving forward. But Canada being positioned where it is, we have clean water, we've got clean air, we've got good climate, and hopefully that continues to stay that way. I'm going to check to see if there's any other questions here. Is there a minimum investment amount that is required in the US for any company to be open regardless of the amount invested? It all depends on what path you're taking and what your intentions are and what the scope of the business is. Under the startup visa program itself, there's no minimum investment, but you do need to demonstrate to a designated organization that is willing to work with you. So there are three paths. The first one is if you can convince a venture capital firm that is Canadian, that's authorized by the Canadian government to issue this, to give you an investment of $200,000 or more, and they are able to write you a support certificate, which allows you to go get your visa and work permit, and then apply for your permanent residency. The other path is angel investors. The angel investor needs to invest a minimum of $70,000, so it's a lower threshold. But the key factor with both of those VCs and angels is that you are totally on your own. You will get your support certificate, you got your investment, but now you have to figure out the immigration path and how to get your business and whatnot structured and set up here, because that's not their business. They don't do those type of things for you. Whereas if you're working with an incubator or accelerator, this is where Launch Academy fits in. We have programs that you can take advantage of that allow you to work your way through our system to really build a strong foundation around your business and set up your business here in Canada. We connect you with different stakeholders, strategic partners, industry experts to provide all the nuances around that. And then as you get your support certificates through us, you then can apply for your work permits and then ultimately bring your family and your spouses and your kids and your co-founders to Canada and apply for your permanent residency. Now, full disclosure, our program, we are a nonprofit. We do not take equity in the companies that we work with, but we do charge fees for the services that we provide. One of the things that I like to say is our Maple program is really designed for companies that already have a product in market, that already have revenues or have already raised funding, and are really focused on the expansion and growth of their business in a new market. If you are still at the ideation stage, if you're still coming up with the idea, or you have a minimal viable product but no customers, you really need to think about is moving to a new market with no network, no connections, no foundation to your business the best move for you, your co-founders, for your family? You might even have some investors right now. Is that the best time to be doing that? So we're very strict about who we want to work with, when we want to work with them, and how we want to work with them. But there are other designated organizations, incubators across Canada that do work with companies at earlier stages than we do. And they're all designed to really try to support these companies as they come into Canada. All right, so we got about a few more minutes left here. If there's any more questions. There are some in Portuguese, so if somebody could do some translation for me. So how does the selection criteria work for Incubator Accelerator program? So every designated organization has their own methodology of how they validate who they want to work for. But you have to really understand that a designated organization is helping to identify companies on behalf of the Canadian government for the Startup Visa program. What this means is that the immigration process, the checks and balances, and the visas, the work permits, those are all still conducted by Immigration Canada. And so you still have to meet all the qualifications and all the requirements. But what happens through the startup visa program is that you get fast tracked through the program. If an organization, Launch Academy, says, we really like this company, we think they have a really viable business, and there's a great opportunity for them in Canada, we have accepted them into our program, and we are going to put our name and support behind the company. What that does is fast tracks you through the immigration process. Like I said, you can get a work permit between 4 to 6 weeks, and that's for you, your spouse, your children, your co-founders up to 5 can all come to Canada and start working and building your business. And then within 12 months, you would have your permanent residency. It obviously doesn't happen that quickly in that sequence. Like our program, our Maple program lasts about 24 months. And by the end of that 24 months, you should have your permanent residency, but there are different checks and balances that we have throughout that process. But again, what we're doing is validating you to the Canadian government to allow you to fast track that process and move ahead of the line into those immigration processes. So hopefully that answered your question. Actually, go back. So part of our selection is also, we as Launch Academy, again, as a nonprofit, we focus more on the individuals. We don't look at, is your company a venture backable business? Will it be $1 billion company? For us, it's more about the people. Who are the people behind it? What are they doing? How are they going to contribute to Canada? Are they going to be a net benefit to the Canadian society? Are we going to be better as Canada by having those people here? So we focus a lot more on the individuals and their passion and what their strategies are. Definitely the business is a key part of it, but it doesn't have to be a $1 billion tech company. It can be a lifestyle-based businesses, as we call it in the industry. It could be a company that is there to get acquired and might even be a strategic partnership that's already in place, and you want to get closer to Canadian companies. Like one of the reasons we look at existing businesses is do they already have customers in the US or Canada that they want to service more efficiently by setting up in Canada? Are they there to tap into a new customer base? Like they might already have 100,000 users in Brazil and now they're ready to expand into North America. Well, we want to help them with that. But in some cases, it's even a factor where they've got a company in Vietnam and they're doing extremely well, but they are focusing on machine learning and artificial intelligence, and that knowledge and experience and research isn't as strong in Vietnam. And so they want to set up operations in Canada so they get closer to universities, get access to students and other professors that can help them advance their business back home. And so it's not just about doing business in Canada, it's about getting access to resources that are going to make their business in Vietnam stronger. Getting access to investors, access to stakeholders, strategic partners, all the different channel partners that can contribute to the success of the business. Those are all legitimate factors of why you want to set up operations in Canada, and we're happy to explore that. Can I submit my project from Brazil or in Canada? No, we take projects from all over the world. Again, every designated organization kind of functions in a very different format, but the way our program works is most likely the first 6 months of our program is all done online while you're in your home country. What we're doing through this process is making sure that you have as much information and as much resources as possible so that you can make the right decisions for your business without spending too much time or more importantly, too much money on doing something that isn't right. And so we guide you through that process, make sure you're on the right path, and make sure that you have all the checks and balances and documentation in place so that when you do go through the immigration process, you are going to have the best chance of success. We as Launch Academy have 100% success rate with our applicants because we have all the right steps and processes in place to make sure that they are a legitimate business. The last thing we or the Canadian government wants to see is somebody coming to Canada that really doesn't actually have a startup. They were just doing it for immigration, and they fast-tracked their way through, got their permanent residency, and abandoned everything that they said they were going to do. And so we spend a lot of time to make sure that the company is really legitimate, has the right reasons, right intentions, and will ultimately benefit Canada as a whole by being here. All right, so it doesn't seem like there's any more questions. So I guess I'll wrap it up there. My contact information is up on the screen. Feel free to reach out. Happy to answer any questions, share more information. If you, doesn't have to be about startup visa. If you just want to learn about the Vancouver ecosystem or tech in general, happy to help out. We have online education courses and programs for people that are still at ideation and want to explore startups. We've got some online courses that can help you through that process as well.
Okay, so I'm back here. Thank you, Ray. It was very, very interesting. Not just the overview about the region, about BC, and especially about Vancouver and all the innovation ecosystem there, but also some general information about the whole innovation ecosystem in Canada and the path to go and internationalize our business here from Brazil to Canada, and maybe even to doing it together with Launch Academy in Vancouver. I think it was very, very nice, very motivating. It's nice also to point out that CCBC and Launch Academy has a history of partnerships. We have a project that happens every year here at the end of November during the São Paulo Tech Week that is called São Paulo Innovator Pitch. And at this pitch, it's a startup competition. And in the first competition we had, one of the winners got a program in Launch Academy. And this year we're going to have another elevator pitch in São Paulo on the Tech Week. Of course, the elevator pitch this year is going to be slightly different because we need to make sure that all the procedures to guarantee the safety of participants and also the jurors would be respected. But it's going to be a very interesting event, and I hope everyone keeps it in mind. The applications for the São Paulo Elevator Pitch are now open, so you can follow more information about it in the CCBC website and through our social media.
Yeah, I believe Sam, our VP of programs, came last year and he really enjoyed it.
Yes, exactly. He was one of the judges here to help us decide which of the 3 contestants would be getting a free program in Canada. And one of the winners went to Vancouver, one to Toronto, and one to Montreal. So it was a very interesting experience. And now we're back with the project again for the end of this year. And maybe we hope to keep with our partnership and host one of the winners there in Vancouver for next year. So besides that, I also would like to point out that CCBC has another interesting project to bring the Brazilian and Canadian innovation ecosystems together. It's called Connection Biho. We have a site that is connectionbiho.org.br, where the innovation ecosystem participants, and that could be programmers, could be startups, could be accelerators, incubators, universities from both countries can connect together through this free access platform. And to end this message, this advertising time, just call everyone's attention for the São Paulo Tech Week on the last week of November, where we have a full agenda and a webinar of webinars, just like we're having in this festival. But the whole agenda during the week is dedicated for innovation and technology. So with that, I would like to thank you, especially Ray, but everyone who is watching us now, and extend our invitation to check the other programs we have at the festival. Just after the session, where we heard about the West Coast innovation ecosystem, we're going to have the opportunity to hear the East Coast with a presentation from Montreal, from D3. And so I just want to remind everybody that the next session will start in half an hour. And also invite everyone to check the site of the festival, where you can find lots of free content. Mais uma vez, muito obrigado a todos. Estamos encerrando essa sessão. Vamos nos preparar que agora às 3h30 temos uma outra sessão. Já ouvimos aqui sobre a costa oeste, o ecossistema de inovação da costa oeste do Canadá. E às 3h30 vamos poder ouvir um pouco sobre o ecossistema de inovação da costa leste. Então, eu espero todos vocês lá em meia hora. Lembrando que no site do festival nós temos diversos conteúdos que podem ser baixados gratuitamente em diferentes temas. Muito obrigado e até breve. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ray. Happy Canada Day. E muito obrigado.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.